Peace, Fit Walk. Peace to the people. Just doing this quick bill real quick. I just wanted to add on about this because, I think we're in the month of Ramadan. So we're going to talk about these freed and enslaved Africans that were living in the Carolinas and in other parts of America in the Antebellum period. So Antebellum period means before the Civil War. In this case, that's how I'm using it. So let me pin this at the top. And I just got a notification for something I did not want to see. So yeah. Okay, so let me grab this. Give me 1 second. Bang. All right, we got it. All right. Let's go back in here. I hope y'all doing good this afternoon. You can share the show if you want. And we're going to go on our journey today. All right. So today, I like this site here. This is the EDU site. Very good. Lots of primaries. And there's 5 individuals I kind of want to go through. And you can see their name right here. We're going to talk about Suliman Diallo. He later becomes named Job ben Solomon. You have Ibrahim Abdalrahman. We're going to talk about him. Then you have Omar ibn Sahih. We're going to talk about him. Then we have Salih Bilal and Bilal Muhammad. And this Muslim culture on the Georgia Sea Islands. Very interesting right there. So now that's kind of going to go into the Gullah people. So when you hear about the Gullah culture, sometimes you don't hear about these Islam. And you'll find that in Pacific areas in South Peo Island, you'll see that. In any event, we're going to start with this individual here, Ayuba Suliman Diallo. The Hebrews like to use the English pronunciation of this word, Job ben Solomon, and they kind of want to say that he's an Israelite. Very strange. In any event, Ayuba, who became known as Job ben Solomon to his European acquaintances, was born a wealthy noble of the Fula tribe from the Senegambia region. His father was a well-respected Muslim scholar who tutored the king's son. Sessions with Suliman Diallo attended also. In the company of the royal and prominent Muslim scholars, Solomon became a hafiz, which means that's a person who memorized the entire Quran. So this guy here, you probably see this oil painting around. You see that thing he got on his back, on his neck. Sometimes those will resemble what you call the juju bags. And we'll get to that. He assisted his father with Iman duties. Before Suliman Diallo's capture, his father had helped establish the city of Bandu, the city of Suliman Diallo's childhood, as a Fula-controlled Muslim region. Bandu was significant not only as Suliman Diallo's home, but the city also marks the first Fula or Fulani jihad. Previously, Bandu had been under the control of a Mandi king. So if you go back to one of my other videos I did on West African strategies of fighting the slave trade, you'll see this region in there. And then you can kind of understand its history. And it's going to kind of tie into one of these individuals. So what happened to Suliman? Suliman got captured in 1731 while trying to sell goods and two of his father's enslaved people. He was sold into the transatlantic slave trade and shipped to Annapolis, Maryland, an established port of the entry in the transatlantic slave trade. During his enslavement in Maryland, Suliman Diallo worked to maintain his Islamic practices. including prayer. He went into the woods to pray in private, but was found by white children who mocked his practices and pelted him with rocks as he prayed. Bearing treatment and labor that would not have been part of Suliman Diallo's life in Bandu, he persisted in his Islamic practices, and a year into enslavement, he decided to run away and secure his freedom. His capture and jailing led to the meeting with the English minister, which eventually led to his freedom. We'll talk about that. So here I like this map. It's a map of West Africa. See the kingdoms here. So you see the wall off there. So you see the map of West African kingdoms and regions, including the Bandu. So you see that region right around to the, what is that? To the left, I believe. And you can see it right here. But let's take a look more at Mr. Suliman. Suliman Diallo's elite Muslim background allowed him to employ his social capital to secure his freedom. The English minister lawyer Thomas Bluett met Suliman Diallo during his imprisonment, and Bluett took an interest into the devoted Muslim faith. Bluett secured a translator, an enslaved person who spoke Wolof, the language of Suliman Diallo's region, and the Wolof translator relayed Suliman Diallo's story to Bluett in English. With Bluett then aware of the Muslim story, he agreed to assist in obtaining Suliman Diallo's freedom. So you got to kind of think about this. I know you guys think, because I was thinking about it. I said, why? Because he's a Muslim, are the Europeans intrigued by him? And why do you want to free him? Well, we'll get to some of that here. Bluett attempted to get a letter from the colonial Maryland to Bandu, a letter Suliman Diallo wrote in Arabic to his father, asking for assistance to return home. So this is crazy. The European is trying to send a letter to his father. This is interesting. Let's keep reading. After changing hands among British officials several times and still failing to move across the Atlantic, the letter finally found itself in the hand of James Oglethorpe, the British aristocrat who founded Georgia colony in 1732. So if you looked at my video that I did on the channel about Black Florida, you will see this guy's name here. And you'll see this in dealing with Francisco Menendez and dealing with the fight of the Maroons, who were called misnomer the Seminoles, and those individuals. And this guy here is one of the hell-bent people to, capture the free blacks and put them back in slavery. But there's something about this Suliman here. Let's keep reading. Oglethorpe also held a position with the Royal African Company, which oversaw the British slave trade. Familiar with West Africa through his work in the Royal African Company, you guys should know what the Royal African Company is. That is the family of King James, who were slave traders. So you keep that in your mind when you see Royal African Company. And there's nothing royal about it. Oglethorpe used his connections to get Suliman Diallo's letter to his father back to Bandu. And with similar interest to Bluett's in this educated Muslim story, Oglethorpe paid for Suliman Diallo's passage to London and arranged for him to work for the Royal African Company. So let's get this straight. One Christian minister heard this story and was amazed. Now you have this governor of Georgia and he's amazed. And then they're like, wow, we got to free him. But what do they really want? And I want you to equate this to politics of the day, that in times that you live in. Let's go. Let's keep reading. During and after his passage to London, Suliman Diallo's intensive education and commitment to Islam were overwhelmingly evident to those around him. The ship's crew noted that Suliman Diallo continued to refuse wine and would not eat the meat provided to him unless it was slaughtered according to Muslim law. He was also noted for maintaining the 5 daily prayers aboard the ship. His religious proscription and education remained with him once in London as well. As Blue had noted in the 1734 detailed account of the elite Muslim's life, Suliman Diallo wrote 3 copies of the Quran without the assistance of any other copy and without so much as looking to one of those 3 when he wrote the others. Given the freedom Suliman Diallo experienced during his unusual enslavement, he had the ability to maintain his Islamic beliefs and even found people who supported his religious cultural needs. He was not stopped from praying aboard the ship or in London. He was provided paper and ink to pen the Quran. And when the crew of the ship understood that in order to eat the meat, a Muslim had to slaughter the animal, they allowed him to perform the task so that he could eat according to his religious requirements. This sounds a little far-fetched, guys, doesn't it? So these guys are in the middle of the goddamn slave trade. They're running around. They're fighting in West Africa at this time. They're fighting for position. The British just come on the scene. And you got this man. You got him on a boat. You done took him to London. You're letting them pray. You even slaughtering the animals according to the way that they supposed to do. There gotta be something attached to this, guys. What do you think? Let's keep reading. In London, British colonists working for the Royal African Company hoped that Suliman Diallo's connections to the West Africa would assist them in building stronger relationships for the trade in the Senegambia region. I knew it. You should have knew it. And we all should pay attention to this and look at the same way how politics work today. They wanted Suliman to use his connections so that they can help trade in this area. Ain't that some shit? You thought it was being nice for a minute, didn't you? You thought they had like this ultimate change in heart, like, wow, he could write the Quran without even looking at it. Interesting. Particularly the trade of ivory, gum, and gold. However, Suliman Diallo was highly trained as part of the religious elite, not in trade, and so he proved unsuccessful in fulfilling the Royal African Company economic endeavors. Wonder what happens next. So here on the right, it's primary on here. This is the memoirs of Job, the son of Solomon, high priest of Bondi in Africa. You can see the cover of the biography, blah, blah, blah. So you got that there. But let's check him out. Let's check the rest of the story out. Several years later, he did eventually make his way back to Bondi. So he went home. He went back home where he was welcomed, but only to find that his father had died and his first wife had remarried. After the news, Diallo wrote to his British contacts to inquire about visiting London, but his request was denied. It was unclear why his British contacts did not grant his request, but long after his request, the Royal African Company collapsed. His correspondence with some of the British contracts continued into Suliman's death in 1773, which was recorded in the minutes of a prominent academic association, the Spalding Gentlemen Society. Indeed, as Blue has said, Ayuba Suliman Diallo, he was no common slave, and a step further, neither was he a common West African or a common Muslim. His elite status became a major factor in allowing him to leave enslavement, a privilege most West African Muslims did not possess, and so could not make use of his experience or revealing. Though, as they unmistakably indicate that some Europeans in colonial America found Muslim education and religious devotion both intriguing and respectable, upon encountering Suliman Diallo, a Muslim with noble lineage and exceptional educational training, the British colonials both persisted in freeing him and accommodated his Islamic practices. Very interesting. The story here, won't you think? So they wanted to use him for such, and after they couldn't use him for such, and he also had got a second wife while he was there. That didn't work out. And there's some gaps or things that took place as far as there's a bunch of things that is kind of missing from the story. But here's a man who was illiterate, who was writing, and he was in the Americas. And of course, they would not want him to come back over here because that's just not a good thing for the people that you're trying to be enslaved. Next person up, we have our man, Ibrahim Abdalrahman. This guy is interesting because when we get to his story, they're going to tell you that he was a Moor and that he wrote his letters to Morocco, and something happens where they mistake him for somebody who he's not, and he played onto it. But let's check him out. So this is our brother, Ibrahim Abdalrahman. He was born into a royal family in the Futa Jalan region. Isn't this interesting of this region that we're talking about? So I need you guys to go back to the video of West African strategies of fighting the slave trade, and you can see what's going on in this whole entire region with these phobies, with these Muslim jihads and these wars going on with the traditional Africanists. It's very interesting. Okay. That will be present-day Guinea. Educated in several centers of Islamic intellectual learning, including Timbuktu, Rahman learned to read and converse in Arabic and came to speak at least 3 other languages, Bambara, Mandingo, and Jalkani. Not a firstborn son, however, Rahman was then sent by his father for training in military leadership. During battle, around the age of 24, Rahman was captured and sold into slavery. Traders in the transatlantic slave trade took him first to the Caribbean and then to New Orleans, where he was sold to a slave map holder in Mississippi. So this is common. So you see they make the stop in the Caribbean, if you want to call that seasoning. Then he goes to New Orleans, and now he's in Mississippi. So sometimes when you see this, it's kind of weird when you hear ADOS arguments and all these other things because it's all connected. Anyway, Rahman spent nearly 40 years on a cotton plantation in Natchez, Mississippi. In his early years of enslavement, Rahman's overt statement of resistance was made by fleeing into the woods for several weeks, an act that many slaveholders responded to with violence upon the enslaved person's return. It was also not uncommon for enslaved people to run away temporarily, hiding out for weeks or months until they were caught. Rahman did return, and after his initial escape, there are no accounts of additional runaway attempts. His cultural resistance, however, continued as he maintained his Muslim faith quite cleverly at times. For example, Rahman penned the Fatah, the opening chapter of the Quran in Arabic for white people, allowing them to believe it was the Lord's Prayer. So he lied to them and told them that this is the Christian God shit. Meanwhile, he talking about law. Subversions such as Rahman's prayer writing suggest that while aspects of his cultural difference, such as his ability to write in Arabic, were interesting to white people around him, he may not have felt safe displaying his Islamic religious practice to those same people. On a plantation in Natchez, Rahman eventually married Isabella, an enslaved Baptist woman on the same plantation. The interreligious couple had children, whom were given Anglo names. The assignment of Anglicized rather than Islamic names for children who had at least one Muslim parent is one of the simple ways enslaved people's Muslim identity was erased in historical records. Rahman knew another Muslim on the plantation from before their time in enslavement. His name was Samba, and he was part of the same Futa Jalan military as Rahman. However, unlike Rahman and Isabella, Samba did give his children Muslim names. naming two of his sons Suliman in an Anglo-Christian environment, though Samba's two sons were called Sam and Solomon. And while Samba went by his name in other cases, Samba easily became the English-friendly Sam. Enslaved people also had slaveholders ignore their African names altogether and renamed them people with English names such as Tom. The shift of Sulimanama's name to Solomon, an Anglo-Christian name, proves how quickly Islamic and African aspects on enslaved people culture could fall into the shadows, publicly stripped in personal, religious, and regional identity. So on the right here, this is called the alphabetical index, and this is free. So it's called the African. Hold on, we're gonna get to this. Hold on, I just want to make sure I got this right. I don't want to say the wrong thing. Right, this is produced by the American Colonization Society, and we're gonna get to that. We will get to it. Hold on, my screen is kind of freezing up on me. Unfreeze, damn it. Okay. Mic check. I hope y'all can hear me. Let me know if y'all can hear me. Rahman kept his Islamic name, and he continued to share his elite full identity, which made an impression on the people he met. Through an extraordinary coincidental meeting with John Coates Cox, a British man Rahman had met years earlier in Rahman's homeland. The enslaved noble Muslim story of prominence in West Africa became better known as Natchez. Around 1810, Cox attempted but failed to convince Rahman's owner to sell him. While Rahman's chance at freedom floundered, another opportunity emerged in the 1820s when a local newspaper reporter took an interest in Rahman's stories about his life back in West Africa and his royal lineage. Through the reporter, Rahman was able to send a letter in Arabic via the Secretary of State, Henry Clay. So remember, the time frame we in, 1820, we're dealing with the American Colonization Society. And we have another instance where these Europeans, they just kind of like these Muslims for some reason. They letting them right home. It's getting weird. But let's keep going. It says, let's go back. Though his reporter, Rahman was able to send a letter in Arabic via the Secretary of State, Henry Clay, to the embassy of Morocco. At the time, the Moroccan embassy was the sole African country with which the United States had formal diplomatic relations. After years of correspondence between the State Department and Morocco and the United States, officials and Rahman's slaveholder, President John Quincy Adams, stepped in to convince the slaveholder to free Rahman. The slaveholder's one condition was that Rahman could not stay in the United States. Arrangements were then made to have Rahman move to Liberia, where the American Colonization Society was settling previously enslaved Africans who managed to return to the continent. So you stop right here for a minute. So there's always something attached to this, and we can see that the reason why they let this take place is because Morocco, I believe, was the first people to recognize the United States after this Civil War and all of these, Civil War, American Revolution. And then you have the Friendship and Treaty Act, that thing that they like to show you to say, oh, look, we're all Moors. It has nothing to do with that. However, Mr. Rahman was also in contact with the Black people who made the Freedom Journal, the first Black paper in New York, 1827. He also went to Liberia with John B. Rushburn. He also tried to convince him not to go there because of the health. And we'll keep reading though, but this is an interesting story. Let's keep going. With the support of abolitionists and the American Colonization Society, Rahman raised enough money to journey back to Liberia. Before he would return, though, he wanted to make arrangements to bring his wife Isabella with him. Rahman, however, had married one of the most important women on the plantation, as Isabella was considered the doctor who, among other medical duties, assisted with births. Ultimately, after negotiations between Rama and the national slaveholder, Isabella was sold to her husband, and the couple was free to leave the United States. The freedom arranged Rahman and Isabella did manage to make their way to Liberia in 1828. He was on the African continent for the first time in over 40 years. But Liberia was not home for Rahman or Isabella, and his plan was to continue to the place of his childhood in Guinea. Before he could take the next step in his journey, though, Rahman fell ill and he died after only a few months in Liberia in 1829. Here's a view of the American Colonization Society and Cape Manstrata. As with Suliman Diallo, Rahman's elite Muslim status proved an asset he could use to negotiate his freedom. In contrast, though, knowledge of his noble heritage on the part of the slaveholder did not stop the slaveholder from keeping Rahman enslaved for more than 40 years. It took orders from the United States president to secure Rahman's freedom. So you got to think about this. The president of the United States freed this Negro. But we know why. These two Muslim experiences elucidate how tenuous enslaved people's relationship was with the white world that controlled their lives. A Muslim elite status in West Africa was often noticed by Europeans and Americans once they were enslaved, but whether or not it resulted in being released from bondage was in large part dependent upon circumstances outside of their control. So I want to back up a little bit. This individual writes this letter and it goes to Morocco, and he's called the prince and from this royal lineage in Morocco, but he is not from Morocco. So you have biographers that begin to write about him. And the reason that they write about him as this specific Moor or this prince that is not a part of the place where he's actually telling you that he's from is because they did not want the world to know that he was what they called the jungle Negro. You know, the dark skin, the big lip, the crazy African that they are enslaving. They wanted to identify him with a royalty in this Arab Berber place where the Moors were. You know, the Al-Badan. In that time frame, they're called the Al-Badan. Al-Badan means the white Moors, not the Hararitans or the black Moors. Yeah. So it was interesting how they kind of flipped his story, but he left an account, and I'm gonna open the book up and you'll be able to see like how the fact. Let me open it right now. So you see this book, African Muslims in the Antebellum. So let me go to this book here, African Muslims in the Antebellum America. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. See if I can find this real quick. So this is still on Jah bin Solomon, and you see how they have him a father of African American literature. Why do we have Jah bin Solomon? Oh, this is the same individual here. All right, we already know his original name, but they have him as that because of his writings, and it's very interesting. In any event, we gonna go scroll through here real quick. I gotta find this. My man's out. Where'd they go? So this is the Abraham. This is the brother we're talking about now. And let's see where we at. Come on. Here's a primary of Ibrahim Abdalrahman's variation on the Fatah. So he also writes this opening of the Quran, and you heard how he did that. Now, they say that he's a Christian in some things, but we can see that that's not true. But I wanted to read this. It said he had undoubtedly been uninterested in writing any Christian verses. Even after being given a New Testament in Arabic, Abd al-Rahim had not, after all, found Christianity to be perfect. He surely balked at believing in the Trinity and at any notion that Jesus was a final prophet. Muhammad enjoyed that special relationship to God in his cosmology. But Ar-Rahim also offered specific criticism. It was wrong that a man should be called good and a Christian even when he ignored the religious essential precepts. So he's really good. So let's go here. It says Ar-Rahim was also feted by blacks in New York's Abyssinian Baptist Church. We know that was founded by Thomas Paul. Yes. And in Philadelphia. In the former city, he met the editor of the first African-American newspaper, Freedom's Journal, who was very interested in the story. As noted earlier, John Rushmore followed him to Liberia. What Al-Arin thought about these occasions, unfortunately, has not been well recorded. There exists only his appreciative response to the toast in Boston, and by the way, a letter he wrote to try to talk Rushmore out of going to Liberia because he thought it would not be healthy for him. All right, but where's the part I want? Okay. This is going into what I was talking about. It says a pattern was set as early as Cyrus Griffin's first letter to the ACS, December 1827, and 4 articles in his newspaper, the Napchat Southern Galaxy, May 29, June 5th, and 12th, and July 5th. The information came from Ar-Rahman, and the letter and articles are informative. They tell a great deal about Ar-Rahman's royal family, country, and religion, and show his intelligence and knowledge. But they are marred by Griffin's attempt to explain away Ar-Rahman's dark skin, thick lips, and woolly hair, as noted above. Griffin, a displaced New Englander, desperately wanted his literate friend to fit the title of a Moorish prince, that is to not be African. That's some deep shit. So for all of my crazy Moor, extreme Moors out there, when you run across this person, some things to think about. Now here's Abdul-Rahman's history. I'm not reading this because what the site that I'm on gives like brief information, but this book here, it kind of goes ham. So we're going to go back. We're back here. We're going back to the basics. Don't worry, I'll put you back on the exclusive. We can get to the exclusive, but we're going to go back to the basics. To the basics. We go back to the basics. Okay. So this is Omar ibn Sahih. Now, this guy is interesting. So Omar ibn Sahih of Tukla Fula. People was born in 1765 in Fouta, Toro, present-day Senegal. Sahih was captured in the early 30s and sold into the transatlantic slave trade around the age of 37. Scholars estimate that the slave ship that brought Sahih to Charleston, South Carolina, landed in 1807. The next year, the United States abolished the transatlantic slave trade, making it illegal to bring new enslaved people to the United States. While enslaved in America, Sahih wrote 14 manuscripts in Arabic, one of which is the only known Arabic language autobiography penned by an enslaved African in the United States. So, we got the primaries of these things. So these are kind of daggers for your aboriginals and you always been there. The Africans didn't come here and all that other stuff. Yeah, this kind of hurts. He recorded the details of his early life, his devotion to Islam, his capture and enslavement, and the relationship with Christianity in his autobiography. Life of Sa'ad's literacy in Arabic garnered the attention of many, particularly after he escaped from an intentionally violent slaveholder. So we see something real clear here. All of these people are what you will, become maroons, run away, things of that nature. So let's go. He had purchased him in South Carolina. Once escaped, he fled to South Carolina, landed in Fayetteville, North Carolina. There, as a Muslim runaway, Saeed sought a place of worship, and so he found a church and began praying. When found in the church, local authorities took Saeed into custody as a runaway. Saeed garnered notoriety for writing on the walls of his jail cell in Arabic, which challenged white prevailing beliefs that enslaved Africans were illiterate. So here's some primaries of this stuff here. Saeed was eventually purchased by a prominent man in the area, General James Owen. Knowing of Saeed's Islamic faith and Arabic literacy, Owen provided him with an Arabic copy of the Bible. Saeed attended the local Presbyterian church and was baptized as a Christian in 1821. Many around Saeed commented on his full conversion and his solid Christian faith. However, inside of his Bible, Saeed inscribed in Arabic, "Praise be to Allah, or God, and all good is from Allah." Through his writing, Saeed proved to be cleverly clandestine about practicing Islam. For example, he penned the Fatiha, the opening chapter of the Quran, in Arabic, allowing white observers to believe it was the Lord's Prayer. Yo, they was all doing this shit, bro. They was all doing this. Whatever you say, yeah, Jesus is God. Yeah. It was Islamic. Let me just read this here. So this is the handwriting chapter from the Quran, and these are the primaries. They're right here. In any event, it was Islamic educational training that allowed Saeed to use Arabic to hide his Muslim religious writings. While many whites expressed their praise of his conversion, one of his ministers showed some doubt about Saeed's full conversion, writing that by all outward signs, Saeed was a faithful Christian. In this way, Saeed's Presbyterian minister left open the possibility that performance of religious faith and individual belief could be two separate operations for individuals such as Saeed. But Saeed's superstitious observance, like his prayer writings, suggest that a complicated spiritual world of syncretism and performance were at play. While Saeed understood that aspects of his cultural differences, such as the ability to write in Arabic, were interesting to the white people around him, he may not have felt safe or comfortable displaying his Islamic religious practices to those same people. Saeed's writing as a whole are ambiguous concerning how he conceived of these two religions, but it is obvious that both religions, Islam and Christianity, were an important part of his once enslaved life in the United States. So now, this is after the Antebellum period, we into the war. So it says in 1864, after more than 50 years in the United States, and as the Civil War was coming to a close, Saeed died. Only a year after his death, slavery would be legally abolished in the United States. Unlike Suliman Diallo and Rahim, Saeed was never granted freedom before and after death. However, many people took to note Saeed, including religious leaders, abolitionists, academics. Each group examined Saeed's life through their own white ideological lenses. Members of the American Colonization Society, for example, told of Saeed's conversion to Christianity and spoke of him as a supporter of their cause to send enslaved Africans back to Africa. However, it is not clear to what degree Saeed really did support that organization. For himself, Saeed decided a return to West Africa was not suitable, citing his uncertainty that his family and his people were not still intact. That's kind of crazy. So he's from Africa. He knows where he's from and didn't want to go back because he wasn't sure about his family. Wow. An academic, Theodore Dwight, the first secretary of the American Ethnological Society, knew of Sahid and of other enslaved African Americans. Blah, blah, blah. So here you can see this is a landmark or a historical marker. It says Muslim slave, scholar, African-born. He penned the autobiography in Arabic in 1831, lived in Baldwin County, and worshipped with local Presbyterians. But we know that he was lying. All right, let's go here. Saeed's status and education in West Africa, as well as his tenacious resistance to his violent treatment in South Carolina, provided him with a skill set wherein he was able to garner positive attention from at least some white Americans. Both accounts of Saeed and his autobiography tell of white Americans' positive reaction to his literacy and spiritual devotion. The later were inceptions made to suit their own conceptions of the man. Yep, there we go. So this is speaking of a different story of syncretism of the faith, but I just wanted to point out these are illiterate Africans in the Americas with their culture here. You don't got to put bifocals on to find them. You got to put bifocals on to find Jews, though. You ain't gonna see nobody over here writing Hebrew. So now we're gonna go to these two people, and this is where things get, things about to get a little interesting here. So now we got Salih Bilal and Bilal Muhammad. Oh, Salih Bilal and Bilal Muhammad were prominent enslaved West African Muslims whose well-known religious beliefs and spiritual practices left a lasting impact on the enslaved community and their descendants and white plantation owners. While some Muslims in the United States did not feel self-expressing their Islamic faith, these two men found themselves in a place where they could more freely express their religious convictions. So it's gonna get crazy with these two guys. Yo, these dudes just running around. Yo, they wearing the fez, bro. I just got to tell y'all, one of them is wearing the fez. They wearing the fez, man. Like, I know it sounds crazy. They on the plantation wearing the fez, bro. But we gonna get to it. Salih Bilal was born around 1790 in Massania, along the Niger River in present-day Mali. After being captured and sold along the Gold Coast into the transatlantic slave trade, he was taken first to the Bahamas. Yep, that's where my people from. Enslaved by the British, then sold to James Hamilton Cooper, an American plantation owner. So again, I want you guys to pay attention to this. Captured, sold in Ghana, probably Elmina, possible. But he goes to where? The Caribbean. Stays there in the Bahamas, and then goes where? He comes to where? America. Now, he was sold to an American plantation owner and slave holder. Cooper took Salih Bilal to Cannons Point Plantation on St. Simon's Island, Georgia, where Cooper clearly took note of the West African Muslim skills. So these are these islands over here, and we're going to get into this Gullah stuff. It's about to get up. Cooper wrote of Salih Bilal. His industry, intelligence, and honesty soon brought him notice, and he was successfully advanced. So pay attention. He's advanced in the slave community until he was made head driver. So you know what that is. You guys should know what a head driver is. Salih Bilal was noted in some sales records as Tom, while his prominence places him in several historical records locations for many other enslaved Muslims. That the single mention in the bill of sale, runaway ad, or plantation journal serves as the only evidence of their existence in America, creating historical erasures impossible to recover. Yep, good luck trying to find all of these records of the enslaved. However, Salih Bilal's experiences were much more well recorded. And so he was known across St. Simons and beyond for his high-ranking status within the slave uh, heresy and for his Muslim practices. Along the Georgia's coastal islands, Sahil Bilal was not alone as a prominent enslaved Muslim. His friend, Bilali Muhammad, resided on the island north of Sapelo Island. So you guys should open up a tab, look up Sapelo Island, and look up the Gullah culture. And yeah, like Salih Bilal Muhammad was the slave driver on the plantation where he was enslaved, which was owned by Thomas Spaulding. Spaulding owned part of the Sapelo Island starting in 1802, going on to own the island in its entirety by the 1840s. There, Bilal Muhammad was made head driver of over 400 enslaved people. On the Low Country Sea Islands, the labor system and therefore the role of the slave driver differed from that of the rest of the slave owning in the United States. While plantations throughout the United States used the gang labor system, you remember we talked about what is the difference between these labor systems. I better see it in the chat. What are the two systems on the plantation? Don't you dare tell me the house nigga and the field nigga. You got one. You got gang system, and then you have what? The Sea Islands use the task system. There we go. In this region, under the task system and of these remote islands, it was not uncommon for plantation owners to leave the islands for a period of weeks or months in the summer, leaving the head driver responsible for labor management. In certain instances, there was no supervision at all by whites. This is crazy. Particularly in the hot, mosquito-ridden summer months, while not a common practice elsewhere in the American South, this was a normal practice on the Sea Islands. It did, however, require the plantation owner to have a reasonable degree of trust in the head driver. Cooper left his St. Simons plantation with Saleh Bilal supervising, and Spaulding likely did the same on Sapelo Island with Bilal Muhammad. God damn it, bro. They left the Allah you Akbar niggas in charge, y'all. The Bilal you Akbar niggas was left in charge while the white man was gone, fam. Yeah, it's about to get interesting. So here's the ruins of the slave home. See this right here, Thomas Spaulding, chocolate plantation. The events of the island surrounding the War of 1812. You guys should know that that is the second war of independence in the Americas, and you should know the big contribution or resistance that were going on by our Black brothers who are in those regions in the South. Proved that Spaulding undoubtedly had a high level of trust for Bilal Muhammad. Slave revolts such as the Stone Rebellion had left white Americans with a palpable fear of armed enslaved men. However, as an attack by the British seemed imminent on St. Simons in 1813, Spaulding armed over 80 of his enslaved men with muskets under Bilal Muhammad's leadership. Yo, oh my God. This story, when I read this one, kind of like, I was kind of shaking my head. I was trying to understand how in the universe, but let's keep going. It is noteworthy that Spaulding not only provided the musket, but also that Bilal guaranteed that he and the other Muslims on the island would remain loyal to Spaulding. According to Spaulding, Bilal Muhammad guaranteed he would protect the island from the British, but could not vouch for the loyalty of the so-called Christian dog. So we're going to stop right here. We're going to stop. So you can see this carryover of these individuals who come from a Pacific part of West Africa, practicing a certain form of Islam, and they look at the Black people who are not Islamic as what? Let's read it again. Christian dogs. Referring to the non-Muslims enslaved, Bilal Muhammad's loyalty, a quality that was highly valued among slaveholders, was recorded in Spaulding's contemporaries' writing, but is also reflected in the Cooper family's later writing. Years later, Cooper's grandson wrote that the Muslims on the Sea Islands were all loyal and devoted to their respective owners. So the Europeans saw these from dealing with the people of West Africa, they saw these differences, and this is why they wanted Pacific tribes, Pacific Africans from Pacific tribes. They saw this division from the jump. But this guy, these two right here, these some special Negroes right here. These are special Allah, you Akbar niggas. All right, let's keep moving. The bindings of Spalding and then Cooper's grandson tell the story of the Muslim men through the eyes of white elites. Their certitude of loyal and devoted slaves speaks less to the intentions and thoughts of Salih, Bilal, and Bilal Muhammad, but is rather more reflected of paternalism's role in shaping white American views and memories of American slavery. So what does that mean? That means how they tried to tell you that you were a happy slave and that we didn't have a problem with being slaves and that the master was good to us. And then you would have some Negroes that had this idea, but majority didn't. But when they write and tell the story, they use this specific form of writing to put it out to the public to keep the system going. Salil Bilal and Bilal Muhammad may have used white slaveholders' impressions of them to secure their own position. Or they may have had complicated relationships with Spalding and Cooper that included some degree of loyalty. Unfortunately, the only surviving records are from the perspective of the enslavers and their descendants. So you can see the Bilal manuscript on the right. The relationship between both slaveholder and enslaved Muslim and between Sapelo Islands Muslims and non-Muslim enslaved people provide insight into the nuanced landscape of heredity and differentiation. Cooper, Spalding, and other slaveholder choices to promote particular African slave drivers is evidence that some white Americans took note of and used to their advantage factors such as literacy, religion, and ethnicity. Meanwhile, Bilal Muhammad's attitude towards other non-Muslim enslaved people was evidence that both ethnic and religious differences among enslaved people not only existed, but in some cases divided them. Well, I'll be goddamn. You're gonna be enslaved in a whole different land, and you're banging on each other because of your ethnicity, and you were all in the same problem, and you can't get it right. This shit was happening on the plantation, bro. Maybe we have plantation behavior that we see that is amongst the people today. I don't know. Wow, not only enslaved people focused on these differences, but black enslaved people concepts of identity and loyalty that were present with them in West Africa. According to Spalding, Bilal Muhammad expressed his differences in religious terms, but just as importantly, he was also Fulbi, an ethnic group well known for its pride. His pride and self-assurance, which likely came from both his ethnic and his religious heritage, appeared to be determining factors in his elevated status on St. Simon's Island. On a different plantation in enslaved West African pride may very well have led to social and cultural isolation among other enslaved or violence from a slaveholder. Taken alongside this experience of other Muslims, it is evident that circumstance played an important role in determining how an enslaved Muslim chose to assert themselves. So this is a different instance. This is different. All right. Remember, I'm not in the archive. We dealing with the basics here. You know, I got that stuff over there. You know, I got that stuff. But let's go here. So this is the last one I'm gonna do. So this is talking about the Muslim culture on the Georgia Sea Islands. So you see, we talked about Bilal Muhammad, his West African origins were not noted by his descendants or by Spalding, but scholars have identified him as a Fulbi based on the fact that Fula was his first language. So he spoke the language of the Fulbi. Bilal Muhammad was known to have passed down his Fula language skills to his children. and may have taught the language to others on the island, Fula. Therefore, it was an active language among at least some of the residents of Sapelo Island throughout the 19th century, both before and well after the Civil War. Before the war, James Hamilton Cooper estimated that around a dozen people spoke Fula on his plantation, and was the case with many of West African Muslims, though Bilal Muhammad spoke multiple languages, including Arabic. Again, the Islamic education system appears as a notable feature in the lives of some enslaved West Africans before they were forced to the United States. Based on the skills he was taught in his West African Islamic schooling, Bilal Muhammad wrote an Islamic manual in Arabic once in the United States. His 13-page manuscript seems to have served as an Islamic devotional manual on spirituality, worship, and jurisprudence. The challenges of maintaining Islamic roots in the United States, though, are evident in his writing. Multiple scholars have struggled to produce an accurate translation because of the quality of Bilal Muhammad's Arabic. While his skill level in Arabic may have sufficed for record keeping on the plantation in the months that Spalding was away in the summers, writing an entire manual seemed to require more than Bilal Muhammad could remember in Arabic. By the time of his writing, he had spent decades away from a West African community where there were Muslim clerics and a culture rich with people. So here you can see the family members. This is Katie Brown, descendant of Bilal, photograph on the Sapelo Island. Here you can see Shahid Sharadak Hall, photograph right here. I didn't read this book yet, but I think I should get it. Drums and Shadows. Lastly, as with the practice of prayer, men were not only carriers of Muslim culture on the Georgia Sea Islands. Katie Brown remembered Bilal Muhammad's wife, Phoebe, wearing a veil instead of the more common practice of wearing a head wrap. However, in her interview, she said that she assumed Phoebe prefers the veil to a head wrap for her comfort. So all of these things and the language that this person is speaking, and the way the slave system is set up on these isolated islands that are isolated from the other part of the South, allowed different forms of West African culture to survive. And a lot of times we don't hear about Islam there. But lastly, we'll go here. The rarity of written observation of the rituals and traditions of Salih, Bilal, and Muhammad lives in the Low Country supply a rich account of the religious conviction of the Sea Island Muslims. The documents taken as a whole are one of the most detailed sets of recording, elucidating the lives of Muslims in America and the survival of Islam through the memories of the descendants. So you can even see like people starting to pray 3 times a day versus 5, blah, blah, blah. Oops. Oh man, I think I unshared it. But I wanted to cover these 5 people. Just 5. There's more of them. We got more. But I'm just, we just scratching the surface. For those, I think you should get this book, African Muslims in Antebellum America. When I get to this chapter here, I believe, where is it at? There's 75 that we have, like, writings and stuff. There's another person called Yarrow. What is, how you say this guy's name again? Oh, here you go. This guy here, Yarrow. This guy here, Yarrow Mama of Georgetown. So he also was able to write, and his family his descendants wind up being members or going to Harvard University. So from slave plantation, but there's more of them. We got more on deck, but we're gonna get out of here. And one of the other books you guys should all know about is, what is it called? Checking my joint. You all should know about this book. You heard about it. This is The Servants of Allah. Allahu Akbar. So this is that. All right. So let me go over here. Scroll here. So you should know about this book and this sister. She has a good book on the Maroons. But what do I want out of here? African, Muslim, Christian. Which ones do I want? Nah, because I covered this before, so I don't have to go through this. But I got this book because I wanted to know about the Muslims in Brazil and that war of 1835. So I don't need to cover that. But in any event, being that it's Ramadan, I just wanted to cover some antebellum history. You got Africans, Muslims, culture in the Americas before the NOI, before the Ahmadiyas. It was here, and they syncretized it with Christianity, lied to the white man, and some used it to move up in the society of, of the plantation. You saw it, you know. I don't know. I don't know what that was like. It's kind of weird thinking about that. The European would leave for the whole summer, and they chilling on the plantation. I don't know. It's an interesting story. But let me look in the chat. I probably have no one here. Damn. No one in the building, I think. Let me see. Let's go to the homepage. Let's go to the chat. What's good with y'all? Let's give some shout outs. Mika. Late show was good. Spence losses. I don't know. He might lose. Donnie was good. Asiatic Lion. Scripture Rip says he said game over. Peace to the God. Oh, yeah? She had a character named Bilal in her film Daughters of the Dust. Oh, wow. Scripture Rippers. Wisdom. Smash. Jehudi, he in here like, God damn it. Jehudi in here like, yo, son, them niggas, the Bilal and that other brother. So I got to go into more research about that because I know about like some of the Sea Island culture and know about it. I read some things about the language from Lorenzo D. Turner and the that I saw like different praying, but to know that like yo, they was in charge. Well, what were they being? Were they beating these people? Were they doing these things? I don't know. The master trusts them so much that he put the guns in their hand. I'm like, listen, man, uh, I don't know. I don't know what to say about these things. So I'm not gonna jump out the window, but I need to learn more about that. So if I don't really know something, I kind of be quiet. But yeah, I'm gonna put the link in the chat just in case there's some people who may have more information about these things. But if you felt like you learned something and you learned some things that you didn't know before, you know what to do. Hit the Cash App. So here's the link. Put the link in the chat. But I want to go back here. Wait, let me go back here. I'm gonna go back to this book because this is important because we're talking about African American writing, literature. All right. So let me find my book again. Where did it go? Library, blah 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 blah. Where is it? Is it here? So this is important. I gotta go back here. Going back here for a reason. So Jah ben Solomon, African nobleman and father of African American literature. I know you hate the Allah, you Akbar. I know you don't like it. Fine. Sorry. This is what we were doing before the slave boat. Job Solomon. The most common variation of his name in English and American publication was no more deserving of an extraordinary than many other Africans enslaved in the New World, including other boobies. We already briefly I spoke about Yarrow. There's some other people. But this guy, because of what he wrote and the stuff that he brought forth, yeah, very interesting story. So I want you guys to remember that. I just couldn't remember how I wanted to say it, but father of African American literature. So you'll have what's his name? You'll hear of Jupiter Hammond. You'll hear of him. Sometimes he has that title. But nope, we're gonna give it to the Allahu Akbar. Allah is the greatest. We're gonna give it to him. Just wanted to keep that there so you can look at it. Hold on. I know they got the primary somewhere floating around here. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's interesting. It might be in the back. I can't remember how this book is set up, bro. Yeah, here we go. Let's look at some of the stuff here. Oh, I ain't covered this guy yet, man. We gonna get to him probably another day. I might do this one tomorrow. But this one is the earliest known 2-page by Mr. Umar. And what is his full name? Umar Quadar. What is the hell? How do you pronounce this guy's name, man? I'll be losing track. That's his name. Omar ibn Sahih. Umar. So, yeah. So let's get back to where he got his writings. Let's go there. We need to get back to the primary. So there you go. So here's his enclosed letter from John Lewis Taylor to Francis S. Key. Ain't that something? You know, the guy who's supposed to write what is that shit? The anthem, all that weird shit. Yeah. Look at that. Look at that. Figure 27 to 28 manuscripts were found together in a notebook. It may have been written in 1840, the date given in Louis T. Moore's Prince of Arabia, wherein Moore described the manuscript. It begins exactly as does the Taylor manuscript with the Fatah, thanks be to God, whom creatures were created to worship. He is the Lord, blah, 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 blah. Crazy. Look at that. Look at it. See, these primaries. Umar, Lord's Prayer. See it? List of Owens family names and the Lord's Prayer. See? More. Lord's Prayer. Lord's Prayer. Look at that. Primaries like a mother effort. This is crazy, right? These dudes is over here writing. They busting a pen. The Bismillah, 23rd Psalm and Quranic phrase. It's crazy, bro. Look at this. The Bismillah. And this is how you pray you. Yeah. You gonna keep going. Cover page of the first page of Umar's life. Yeah. The act provided, in fact, an opening to the Muslim hinterland for the Young Arabic Studies program for the College of Liberia and for its founder, the great Black Caribbean Edward Wilmot Blyden, who began teaching Arabic in Liberia in 1867. So, Edward Wilmot Blyden, you know, the person who was a slave in the Americas, right? Black man from America. If you want to call him Adolf, you can call him that. Goes to Liberia, rocking with the government. He was kind of messing with the affairs of the elite, and they ran him out of there. And he's in Sierra Leone, But let's read that one more time. This act provided, in fact, an opening into the Muslim hinterland. What is this act? We're going to get back to it. This is in chapter 6 of Young Arabic Studies program of the College of Liberia, and for its founder, the great Black Caribbean scholar Edward Wilmot Blinded, who began teaching Arabic in Liberia. We know he wrote the what book? Christianity, what is it? Christianity, Islam, something, can't remember it. But it is him, Mr. Blyden, that tells the Black people in America on how Islam keeps together such society, and that is how that even begins to be a topic over here. Very interesting. This guy, we gonna get to him, but we ain't doing him today. So this book got the secret science. That other, that website that's dealing with the, that's the basics. So I'm done with that. I ain't going in no more. But the other one is debate. That's the basics. That book though, right there, that got that shit in it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me see what y'all got in here. Good, bro. Peace, Jehudi, Scripture Riptures, King of Compla. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I hope it means peace. Scripture, good, Bill. The purpose of race is to engage in racism. Yeah, you're right. Race is very important. Stop denying your Africanness. Listen, Scripture Riptures. We talking about we talking about the Allah Akbar people. They up there with the Gullah. Yeah. We talking about them. Blyden is a good source. Yes. Oh, that's the name of the book. I could not remember it. Christianity, Islam, and the Negro Race. Thanks, Sajid. Yeah, that's the name of that book. I forgot all about the name of that damn. I cannot remember it for the life of me. Well, let me see. Nobody want to join. Nobody want to have my. Nobody want to come into my Ramadanic festivities tonight. Very interesting. We put one right here. See Asiatic Lion. But anybody got any other questions? Why not learn? Be what you say you are. Did you know you have to be reverted back into Africa to be African? Mika, man, I gave you a free lesson today, and you should have hit the Cash App. You got a free lesson. You got a free lesson today. You should be hitting the Cash App. There's no way that you should be telling me that. Rabon, did you know you have to be reverted back into Africa to be an African? No, Africa was born in you. Africa was born in your ancestors. And just from looking at this presentation, their African form of Islam was brought to the Americas. But let me get something else for you, since you shouldn't have did that. I was about to close out. Let me grab something. Jew Yeah, we're gonna pull up something. What is this? Is it him? Oh yeah, it's called. I messed the name up. Hold on, I'm gonna find it. Don't worry, we're gonna find it. You're gonna find it. We're gonna find it. So what I'm looking for is a Pacific artifact, and I need to find it. Yeah, I think this will serve the purpose. But where is it? Come on. Nope, that's not it. I can't find it right now. You lucky I can't find it right now. But I'll find it. It'll pop up one day. I will find it. Oh, there it is. Let me see. 1840, blah, 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 blah. The viewers question about the origin of voodoo and blah. The remainder of the come on. I'm gonna let you get away. But it's dealing with the gree bags. And these bags are the bags that you can say that it deals with voodoo, but you also have them with these individuals who come from these Islamic countries. They wear this around their neck, and it has like words in Arabic. You might have a copy of not a copy, but they might quote the surah and all that other stuff. But yeah, I got you though. Don't worry. Lucky I can't find it right now. Can't think of the book that is in. But you lucky. Stop saying that stuff. Abacus diverse. Islam is temporalism and Machiavellian thinking. Yeah, it could be that. Yeah, it's the amulets. But I'll find it. You got lucky there. So if there's any other questions, any other things in the chat y'all want to go over, if not, I guess that's that. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Sister Saab for the donation. Shout out to the sis for the donation. Man, let me see. Any more questions in the chat? Going once, going twice. And she said the fourth chapter of the servants of Allah. Let's pull them up. Let's go. Let's go in there. Chapter 4, literacy and danger. Yeah, I believe it's a picture in there. Where's the goddamn picture? I'm scrolling. Aha, there it is. Yep. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Mika not listening. She don't care about this stuff. She doesn't care. Because this is the chapter that goes into that 1835 revolt as well. So, yeah, she don't care about none of that, man. She thinks she's an American. I don't know what that is. I mean, as a nationality, yeah. But, yeah, I see it. I see what you're talking about. But there was something I was really looking for. It's a picture. And I'm looking a little more. Nah, I don't see that joint, bro. That's crazy. I'm scrolling down the river. Nope, don't see it. It's all good. But she don't care. She thinks she's not African, bro. I don't know what she is. The origins of teacher Baganda. All right, man. Y'all ain't got no other questions. No, nothing else. We up out of here, man. I'm just scrolling up to see what other people were saying. Wisdom is in the building. Oh, nothing else there. All right, I'm out, man. Peace to the fam. Jesus, why don't we see the adoption of Islam as an example of creating culture or cultural transformation consistent with what currently occurring now in America? I don't know. I don't know, man. I guess they don't see it that they don't want to they don't want to look at it that way, bro. I don't know why. SK said there was a need for a paradigm shift from religions. Well, brother, I guess you're gonna be waiting for a long time for that to happen. Because it ain't happening, brother. You might as well forget that. That's a dream. And that dream will never come true, bro. All right. Peace out, y'all, man. I'm trying to be like Black Lives Matter. You guys just need to, hit the Cash App so I can buy my crib. You know what I'm saying? You should hit the Cash App because I'm giving you pertinent information. I'm gonna help you guys. Let me see what I'm gonna help with. Police brutality. I'm gonna help with corporate racism. What else they said they for? Equality. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I need a mansion, bro. I need $6 million. I want a 6 million. I want a 20. First and foremost, I need the 20 cars so I can have, the 20, the mansion with the 20 car garage. So you guys, if you feel like you learned something, hit the Cash App. You know, the Black Lives Matter did it. I might as well do it too. Hit the Cash App. I'm for the people, bro. I'm giving you this raw information so that you can liberate yourselves. This is a place where you can express yourself. Hit the Cash App. All lives matter. Bro, that's another conversation. I'm messing up my live with this. I'm messing up my live, yo. I'm messing it up with that way, yo. But yeah, man, that's a conversation I got popping on Clubhouse now. All of them people over there making rooms about that now. They try to follow they try to follow the leader. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. He's scared gods. Yeah, son. They definitely scared gods. I'm not gonna lie about it. But let me end this before I mess